the tariffs. So Trump's tariffs, is this fair play or a shot in the dark? We won't really know. Honestly, time will tell with this, with what he's got going on here. Now, he unveiled all of these tariffs. The bottom line is 10% for practically everybody, including Israel. They're on the list. Like all of these allies that you think maybe would have carve-outs, they're all on the list. So pretty much every nation on earth is on this list. Everybody's got a baseline of 10%. That's what we're going to charge you to import goods into the United States. And then the rest of them, some of them that are higher than 10%, many of them that are higher than 10%, it's reciprocal. It's considered like, look, the one example is Vietnam, 90% is what Trump says they charge us, or when you import an American good into Vietnam, it's got a 90% tariff on it. So he says, so we're going to slap 46% on Vietnamese goods, which, by the way, a lot of the stuff these days is manufactured in Vietnam and no longer in China. It used to be made in China, made in China. If you check a lot of the stuff, you're actually going to see now that a lot of it's made in Vietnam. So this could have a big impact on the things that you buy. So he's saying it's going to be 46% on Vietnamese goods. How could you possibly be mad? It's half the price. That's true. It's half the price, except the Vietnamese say, wait a minute, we don't actually charge you a 90% tariff. Where are you coming up with this number? It's actually 9.4%. So who's telling the truth? Who's lying? I don't know. Honestly, there's a lot of economists on this. What we did see was that the market took a crap today because of the tariffs. This is just market reaction. This was expected. I don't think people should panic just yet. I'm interested to see how this all shakes out. You know, I understand Trump is taking a chainsaw, Javier Milei, Argentina style to the government, and there's going to be immediate pain. And nobody likes change. That's just fundamental with anything and everything. People just don't like change. So when you make a change, people kind of panic. The market's panicked. That's normal. But it doesn't mean this whole kind of method that Trump's got, it doesn't mean that this isn't going to work. It might work. We just have to wait it out. But it also might not work, guys, and we have to be open to that. I mean, if it happens that this just kind of sucked and it just ended up raising prices for everybody and it turned into this giant trade debacle, it is possible that this fails, and we have to be willing to admit that. Where this might fail is really when it comes down to a tariff. You're not actually charging the foreign country. You are charging the American people. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to dissuade us from purchasing these imported goods. You're trying to get us to, rather than buying the dining room set made in Vietnam that only costs us $400 for a set, you know, a table and 4 chairs, when you slap a 46% tariff on it and the price goes way up, you may. And then the price, you know, then now it's a $700 dining room set or something. You might say, well, I'd rather, you know, if I'm going to pay that money, then I like this other one instead. And that one's made in America. And it might, or we might see lower prices of goods made in America. I kind of doubt it, though, to be honest, when it comes to prices of goods being manufactured in the United States. But so that's where, in my mind, this is where it could backfire. I don't think this is going to result in cheaper American manufacturing. It just, the math isn't there. You got to pay wages that are higher than what you would pay somebody in Vietnam or China or wherever, right? So the math isn't there. What could happen, though, is that $400 dining room set now is $700, and your choices are amongst the $700 dining room sets. You're no longer going to get those cheap goods. And so when you have a choice, you may choose American rather than foreign. So yes, it would work in that regard, but you're still paying $700 and not $400 for that dining room set. So it didn't really, I mean, yes, it benefited, the goal would be to benefit American manufacturing. So if we have American workers in these factories and now I'm buying an American set rather than a Vietnamese or Chinese set, then that would help put food in the mouths of Americans. And that's a good thing, ultimately. But it still cost me $700 and not $400 for the dining room set. So the pain, the economic pain on Americans, I don't see this changing that. I think the pain is coming. And I think we're just going to have to readjust. And the question is, will there be more jobs? Will the jobs pay better? Will we be able to afford the new price adjustments because our wages go up, or the cost of whatever else that's costing us a fortune, like medical and health, medical care, college educations. What else is costing us a fortune? Real estate, right? All of these things that cost us a fortune. Are those going to go down to kind of level this out? We kind of have to wait and see. And we have to, and this is going to be a shock. This is very much shock therapy. So how are people going to react? How are companies going to react? Is Apple going to bring back its entire manufacturing to the United States? What will be the cost to the iPhone if you do that? You got Elon Musk probably salivating over this because I think he's talked about wanting to launch a phone, like a Tesla phone. Well, if he could do it cheaper than Apple, when Apple brings its whole operation over here, that would be a win for an American company that maybe doesn't need to hassle with bringing over all the manufacturing because the manufacturing is already here. So, look, I'm willing to wait and see how this pans out, but I do think it's going to be painful, and I have low confidence that this is going to that the prices are going to go back. I think we're going to see price hikes, and I think we're just going to see price hikes. The question is, will it level out? When I traveled to Denmark, for example, Denmark has, for an American, really, really high prices. Like the krona is very, very strong. So I bought, I think, 2 smoothies and a coffee, and it was like $17 American dollars, the equivalent. And I was asking the Danes about it, and they're like, no, we don't feel it. Our wages are high. And so for us, that's what you paid for is like an appropriate amount, and it's not too much, and we could do that all the time. So their wages are higher to accommodate the fact that their economy charges more money for things. And if we get to that, then that's a good thing. I do think, though, we have to bring American manufacturing. We have to get American manufacturing back. It is not wise from a security standpoint, national sovereignty and security, to be reliant on imports. We saw that during the pandemic. It's just not a good idea. So if this is going to encourage us to buy local, to buy sustainable, to buy American, like all of those things are ultimately a good thing. So we'll see how this shakes out. We're going to be talking about this more tomorrow. We're going to be bringing on more of an expert, an economic expert, and we're going to have a chat about what is happening. And he says that he actually sees the end of America, and a lot of the signs are there. And this maybe is one of those. And I gotta just tell you something that freaks me out. Remember that psychic guy, or he was a pastor? Who was he? He was like a bald guy who was sitting there, and he predicted Trump getting shot in the ear. And he said, I see Trump getting shot in the ear, and he falls to the ground, and he becomes closer to God as he realizes he nearly died. And he saw that, and that was like months before. I think he saw that in March, and then in July, Trump got shot, and it was the exact scenario. And that same guy said that he saw another future moment of Trump sitting in the Oval Office and Trump having his hands on his head, and the economy's gone to pure shit. And he's just shaking his head, and the economy's gone to shit. So, I hope that guy isn't that psychic or that much of a prophet or seer or revelator or whatever. But his track record is pretty good with the other one. So and here we are today, and it's kind of feeling like maybe it's going to go in that direction. And we'll see how that pans out. But no matter what, we have to bring American manufacturing back onshore. It is going to be painful no matter how you slice it. We have to just ride it out and see what happens. Also, well, actually, let me play this for you, too, because then the question is this going to get us into a trade war? And is our country's going to start retaliating? This is actually Secretary Bessent saying, don't you dare retaliate. It's not a good idea.
President in the Rose Garden. Let's get reaction to the president's tariff plan and the progress of his big, beautiful bill going forward. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent joins us now. Thank you for being here.
Right. Good to see you.
It was a big day. The president calls it Liberation Day. We showed the markets before, but if you saw the post-market reaction, it was kind of down across the board. People are looking at their 401ks, and they worry about it. What do you say to them tonight?
Brett, I say that what we are doing is we're setting the stage for long-term economic growth, that we were on our way to a financial crisis. I used to teach a history of financial crises, and with that gigantic government spending, it was unsustainable. You look back in 1998, you look back in 2007, right before it looked great, everything collapsed. So, it looked great right before everything collapsed. So we have taken us off that trajectory, and we are putting ourselves back onto a sound trajectory.
You said 10% over 10 years would be $2.5 trillion coming in. You look at this list of all these countries, and there's some policy decisions here. China is at 34%, added to the 20% already. So that's 54% on Chinese goods.
Yes.
Are they going to come back with something big?
Well, we'll see what they do. Is my advice to every country right now is do not retaliate. Sit back, take it in. Let's see how it goes. Because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high watermark.
So also not in the list, Russia, Belarus, but Ukraine is on the list. Mexico, Canada, not on the list other than the fentanyl tariffs already there. There's a decision making here.
Well, Russia and Belarus, we don't trade.
Yeah, so he's some of the countries that were omitted was because we just don't trade with them, or we already have a tariff with them that doesn't need to be announced. So we'll see how it all pans out, right? Time will tell. Okay, Marco Rubio says the United States is very committed to NATO. This is not what a lot of us want to hear, but here he is anyway.
As we speak right now, the United States is as active in NATO as it has ever been. And some of this hysteria and hyperbole that I see in the global media and some domestic media in the United States about NATO is unwarranted. President Trump's made clear he supports NATO. We're going to remain in NATO. The events of the last few years, a full-scale ground war in the heart of Europe, is a reminder that hard power is still necessary as a deterrent. And so we do want to leave here with an understanding that we are on a pathway, a realistic pathway, to every single one of the members committing and fulfilling a promise to reach up to 5% of spending. That includes the United States will have to increase its percentage. Because if the threats truly are as dire as I believe they are, and the members of this alliance believe they are, then that threat has to be confronted by a full and real commitment to have the capability to confront these things.
Can we just defend ourselves? Why do we have to defend everybody else? That's just so much to ask. We have a strong and mighty military. It should be used for America's defense. I'm totally fine with that. I want that. I like that. But this whole idea that we're in NATO, we're committed to NATO, but for why? Why? But why? Why can't Europe defend itself? Why can't Europe get together and do its own? And here you've got guys saying, well, they need to contribute more. No, just defend yourself. I mean, if you ask us, and if we see we need to, then we'll assess and determine whether or not we're going to rush to your side to aid you in your war. We've done it before. We didn't need NATO to do that. Why are we in this NATO agreement that requires us to rush to the aid of these other countries? If like Montenegro and North Macedonia go into war, which you don't even know where they are, does anybody? If they go into war, we're obligated to show up for them. And yet here's little Marco saying, once again, yes, we are very committed to NATO. This is not what we wanted to hear. And this is actually not what Donald Trump campaigned on originally. We wanted to get out of NATO, right? That's what Americans voted for. That's not what we're getting. So that's that. All right. Well, we do have a great show for you guys that we're going to continue on to here. Maha doctors are being completely and utterly censored. We're going to get to that. That is coming up next here on The Kim Iverson Show. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, you lose weight, but then you gain it all back plus a few extra pounds. Then later you lose it and regain it again and again. Well, that's not good for you. Studies show this can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. So you got to break free of this yo-yo diet pattern, and that is why doctors created Lean. Lean is a supplement. It's not an injection. You don't need a prescription. The science behind Lean is really impressive. Its ingredients, all natural, studied ingredients, target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, it helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So listen, if you're tired of losing weight and gaining it back, and if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace, then Lean was created for you. So let me get you started with 20% off when you enter Kim20 at takelean.com. That's Kim20 at takelean.com. Thanks for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can check out Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. All you have to do to catch it live is head to KimIversonShow.com. See you there.